ChatGPT said we spend so much of our lives believing that letting go is a kind of failure. That if someone leaves, it means we weren't enough, or that we're losing something we can't live without. But that's not the truth. The truth is, letting go isn't about losing. It's about liberating yourself from the chains of what no longer serves you. Detachment is not abandonment, it's alignment. Alignment with your highest self, your deepest peace, and your truest purpose. And until you understand that, you'll keep mistaking your cage for comfort. Most people cling to relationships, memories, or people who have already emotionally checked out because their minds confuse familiarity with safety. The brain is wired to seek patterns even if those patterns hurt us. So when someone pulls away or when a chapter ends, we hold tighter, thinking if we just try harder, give more love deeper, we can make things go back to how they were. But the past is not meant to be a destination, it's a classroom. And once the lesson is learned, staying there is no longer growth, it's self-sabotage. Here's the paradox: the tighter you hold on, the more you lose. Because while your hands are clinging to what's gone, they're too full to receive what's next. You miss opportunities, you silence your intuition, you shrink to fit a version of yourself that's already outdated. Letting go isn't an act of weakness. It's one of the most courageous decisions you'll ever make. It says, I choose myself over my comfort zone. I choose growth over familiarity. I choose peace over chaos. And that's not easy. Your nervous system will resist it. Your mind will try to drag you back to what's known. You'll replay conversations, rationalize red flags, bargain with reality. But every time you surrender the illusion of control, every time you release your grip on what's already walked away, you take a step closer to your authentic power. Because power doesn't come from what you can hold on to. It comes from knowing you'll be whole even when you release it. There's a deeper layer to this too, a philosophical one. Detachment is not about indifference. It's not saying, I don't care. It's saying, I care deeply, but I refuse to abandon myself in the process. You can love someone and still let them go. You can cherish the memories and still choose your future. The highest form of love is freedom. And that includes the freedom to walk away from what no longer reciprocates your energy or respects your worth. When you detach, you reclaim ownership of your story. You stop giving away the pen to people who are only meant to be a few chapters, not the whole book. And in that space that once was filled with chasing, pleasing, proving, you begin to build again. You rediscover your passions. You remember your strength. You redefine your identity not by who left, but by who you're becoming. That's the kind of liberation that transforms everything, because it shifts the source of your happiness from something external to something unshakable within you. So ask yourself this: are you holding on because it's right, or because you're afraid of what happens if you let go? Because the truth is, nothing new can arrive while you're still clinging to the old. And nothing extraordinary can grow in souls still occupied by the past. You cannot evolve if you keep dragging expired attachments into your next season. Letting go is not the end of your story. It's the clearing of the path so the real story can begin. And once you understand that, once you stop calling it loss and start seeing it as liberation, you'll realize you never needed what left. You only needed the strength to release it. When someone leaves your life, whether by choice, distance, or circumstance, the most damaging thing you can do is keep pouring your energy into a space that no longer exists. Yet that's exactly what most people do. They replay old conversations, analyze every detail, scroll through social media, and search for clues as if the past will suddenly offer a different ending. All of that energy, all that focus is being siphoned into something that cannot change. And that's why you feel stuck. Not because they're gone, but because you haven't redirected your power back to where it belongs into you. Think about it for a second. Energy is life. Wherever your attention goes, your life follows. If your focus is constantly orbiting around someone else, around their choices, their silence, their absence, then your growth becomes secondary. You're feeding a story that no longer exists instead of writing the next chapter. Redirecting that energy isn't just about moving on. It's about reclaiming authorship of your life. It's saying, I'm done being a supporting character in someone else's narrative. I'm ready to be the main force in my own. And this is where the real transformation happens. Because once you stop chasing closure or validation from someone who's already checked out, you free up an incredible amount of mental, emotional, and spiritual bandwidth. That's the same bandwidth you can invest in becoming stronger, wiser, more grounded. You can pour it into your health, building a body that feels unstoppable. You can channel it into your goals, advancing your career, launching that business, creating something that outlives you. You can invest it into your mindset, rewiring the way you think, speak, and show up for yourself. Every ounce of energy you once gave to them becomes fuel for your own evolution. There's also a deeper psychological truth here. When we fixate on someone else's choices, we give them power over our state. But when we redirect our focus inward, we shift from being reactive to being proactive. You stop waiting for someone to text back to feel worthy. You stop needing their apology to feel at peace. You stop depending on external circumstances to validate your worth. Instead, you become the source. That's the foundation of emotional freedom. When your inner state is no longer at the mercy of someone else's behavior. And this isn't about becoming cold or selfish. It's about balance. It's about realizing that self-focus isn't self-absorption, it's self-respect. When you prioritize your growth, you're healing your future, you're not turning your back on love. You're raising the standard for the kind of love you're willing to accept. Because the more you build yourself, the less you tolerate anything that diminishes you. And ironically, that's often the point where life brings people and opportunities that match your elevated energy, not the ones that drain it. Here's the truth. The version of you that's waiting on someone to come back is not the same version of you that's ready to step into what's next. And that's the point. You're supposed to evolve beyond the place where you needed them. You're supposed to become someone whose life is too full, too vibrant, too purpose, driven to revolve around a door that's already closed. So the next time you catch yourself checking their profile, replaying that memory, or wondering what they're thinking, pause. Ask yourself, what if I redirected this same energy into building the life I deserve? Because the future you're dreaming of isn't waiting on them. It's waiting on you to stop leaking your power into the past. At the end of the day, the most radical act of self-love is not chasing what's gone. It's investing everything you have into who you're becoming. One of the deepest wounds people carry after someone leaves is the belief that their departure means they weren't enough. It's a quiet, corrosive thought that whispers, if I had been smarter, more attractive, more interesting, they would have stayed. That story is powerful, but it's also false. Their decision to walk away says far more about their capacity than it does about your worth. And until you separate those two truths, you'll keep questioning yourself for choices that were never yours to control. Here's the reality. Human beings don't always leave because something is wrong with you. They leave because of timing, because of fear, because they're not ready to meet you at the level you're capable of loving. They leave because they're carrying their own wounds, or because they haven't yet grown into the version of themselves required to build something lasting. None of that is a reflection of your value. But when we internalize someone else's limitations, we make them our definition. And that's where so many people get stuck. We've been conditioned to attach our worth to external validation. From a young age, we're taught that love, approval, and attention mean we're good enough. So when someone pulls away, it feels like proof that something in us is lacking. But worth isn't a currency that rises and falls based on who decides to stay. It's an inherent truth, unshaken by anyone's recognition or rejection. You were worthy before they arrived. You were worthy while they were here. And you are still worthy now that they're gone. Think about this. If someone doesn't understand the value of gold, does it make gold worthless? Of course not. It only means they lack the awareness to recognize what's in front of them. The same is true for you. Your value doesn't decrease because someone failed to see it. Their perception is a reflection of them. Their vision, their capacity, their readiness, not of you. And once you understand that, you stop trying to contort yourself into someone else's limited view and instead stand firmly in the truth of who you are. This is also about reclaiming your power. Every time you let someone else's departure define your value, you hand them the keys to your self-esteem. You give them authority over your narrative. But when you decide my worth is not up for debate, you take that power back. You stop shrinking to earn love. You stop editing yourself to be chosen. And ironically, that's when you become most magnetic, because confidence rooted in self-worth is unstoppable. It's also important to remember that the right people will never require you to question your value. They will not stay because you beg them to or because you prove yourself worthy. They will stay because they see you and choose you exactly as you are. And if someone doesn't, let them walk. That's not your loss. That's space being clear for someone who's aligned with your truth. Here's the deeper philosophical lesson. Self-worth is not something you discover. It's something you decide. It's a daily choice to see yourself not through the lens of who left, but through the lens of who you truly are. It's choosing to believe that you are whole and complete, even when someone else could not recognize it. And when you operate from that place, no one's absence has the power to diminish you again. So stop asking, what was wrong with me? And start asking, why did I ever believe someone else's departure could define my worth? Because once you stop measuring your value by who stays, you unlock a level of freedom that no rejection can touch. Here's the truth most people avoid facing. You cannot step into the next chapter of your life if you're still dragging the weight of the last one behind you. We say we want growth, peace, purpose, and love, but we cling to the very things that keep us from receiving them. And it's not because we're weak. It's because part of us believes that holding on will protect us from the pain of the unknown. But the future doesn't meet you where you were. It meets you where you're willing to go. And that means releasing what's heavy, even when it once felt essential. Every new season of your life demands a new version of you. And that version cannot emerge while you're still anchored to the people, stories, and identities that belong to the past. Think about it. You can't climb a mountain while carrying the weight of everything you've outgrown. You can't open your hands to new blessings if they're still clutching old attachments. The universe, life, God, whatever you want to call it, cannot pour into a vessel that's already full. Letting go is the process of emptying what's expired so that you can receive what's aligned. But here's the tricky part. Letting go isn't just about releasing the person. It's also about releasing the version of yourself that existed with them. The one who was defined by that relationship, shaped by that chapter, limited by that story. Because the truth is the future doesn't want that version of you. The future is calling for the version that's wiser because of what happened, not wounded by it. It wants the version that uses the lessons as fuel, not as chains. This is where many people get stuck. They think healing is about waiting until the past stops hurting. But healing isn't passive. Healing is an active decision to stop revisiting a place that no longer builds you. It's choosing to rewrite the narrative. Not I lost something, but I released what no longer belonged. That shift in perspective transforms letting go from an act of sadness into an act of power. And once you truly release, something remarkable happens. Space is created. Space for new opportunities. Space for relationships that meet you where you are, not where you were. Space for a purpose that excites you more than the comfort you left behind. That's not just poetic. It's how growth works. Nature does this constantly. Trees shed their leaves not because they hate them, but because without that shedding, there's no room for new growth. Your life works the same way. There's also a profound psychological shift that happens when you stop clinging to what's gone. You reclaim agency. You move from being a passive character in someone else's story to being the author of your own. You stop waiting for closure and become the closure. You stop hoping they'll validate your next step and realize you don't need permission to move forward. That's when the future starts unfolding in ways you couldn't have imagined, not because it suddenly appeared, but because you finally became available to receive it. So if you're still holding on, not because it's right, but because it's familiar, remember this: everything you truly want is waiting on the other side of release. The peace you crave, the love you deserve, the life you're meant to build, none of it can manifest while you're gripping something that's already finished. And yes, letting go might hurt. It might feel like breaking, but it's actually becoming lighter, freer, stronger, and ready. The future cannot be built with the tools of the past. It needs your hands empty, your heart open, and your focus forward.